Attraction is not loud, it's quiet, intentional, and deeply psychological. When a woman becomes drawn to an older man, it's rarely about age. It's about the way presence feels, the way conversation slows, the way silence becomes comfortable, and the way intimacy is built long before touch. And there are two unspoken questions that decide everything. The first question is whispered in energy. Can I relax in your presence? When the room grows quiet, when emotions surface, when the conversation becomes personal, does the atmosphere soften? Does confidence remain grounded? Does the moment feel safe and exciting at the same time? Because intimacy begins when someone feels seen, heard, and held emotionally. The second question is even more seductive. Do you lead your life, or do you wait to be chosen? There is something irresistible about a man who moves with purpose, who listens deeply, who flirts with intention, who doesn't rush but doesn't hesitate either. That balance creates tension, and tension creates desire. Not loud desire, quiet, slow, magnetic desire. This is why maturity becomes intoxicating, not because of age, but because of emotional control, calm confidence, and knowing exactly what you bring to the table. Real intimacy is built in the space between words, in the way attention is given, in the way presence lingers. And when those two questions are answered without a single word, attraction doesn't just appear, it deepens. Attraction does not begin with words, appearance, or charm. It begins in the nervous system. Long before desire becomes conscious, the body decides whether it feels calm, open, and curious, or guarded and distant. This is why emotional safety is not a nice extra. It is the foundation of real chemistry. When emotional safety is present, conversations slow down, eye contact deepens, and tension becomes soft instead of anxious. There is no rush, no performance, no need to impress. The moment feels grounded, almost effortless, and that effortlessness is what makes it intoxicating. When emotional safety exists, vulnerability does not feel risky, it feels natural. Thoughts are shared without fear of judgment. Silence is no longer awkward, it becomes comfortable, even intimate. There is a quiet confidence in being able to sit in that space without needing to fill it. That confidence is deeply attractive because it signals strength, emotional maturity, and self-control. It tells the other person without saying a word, you don't need to protect yourself here. Most people try to create attraction through excitement, but excitement without safety becomes anxiety. Safety without excitement becomes boredom. The rare and powerful balance is the combination of both, calm energy with subtle tension. That balance is what makes connection feel alive. Emotional safety allows attraction to breathe, to deepen, to evolve instead of burning fast and fading just as quickly. When someone feels emotionally safe, their guard lowers, their voice softens, their body language opens, their curiosity grows, they start listening more closely, they begin sharing more honestly. This is where intimacy begins, not in physical closeness, but in psychological openness. True intimacy is the moment someone feels understood without needing to explain everything, accepted without needing to perform, and valued without needing to earn it. Emotional safety is created through consistency, through calm reactions under pressure, through listening without interrupting, through responding instead of reacting, through maintaining composure when emotions rise, through being present without being overwhelming. It is built when boundaries are respected, when words match actions, when attention is given without expectation of return. Over time, this atmosphere becomes addictive, not because of excitement, but because of peace. And peace is the rarest emotional experience in modern relationships. In a world full of noise, pressure, and emotional unpredictability, being with someone who creates calm becomes magnetic. Desire naturally grows in that space because the mind relaxes enough to feel. The strongest attraction is not the kind that overwhelms. It is the kind that settles into the bones, slow and steady, impossible to ignore. That kind of desire is born from emotional safety. When someone feels safe, they feel free. And when they feel free, they feel alive. And when they feel alive with you, they do not want to leave that space. That is the quiet power of emotional safety. It does not demand attention, it commands it. Confidence is not loud. It does not need to announce itself or dominate the room. True confidence is quiet, steady, and deeply felt. It shows up in posture, in eye contact, in the way someone listens without rushing, and in the way silence is allowed to exist without discomfort. This kind of confidence does not try to convince anyone of its value. It simply moves through the world knowing its worth, and that knowing becomes impossible to ignore. What makes confidence so seductive is not control over others, but control over self. When emotions rise, confidence stays calm. When tension appears, confidence does not retreat or overreact. It responds with composure. That composure creates trust, and trust is the emotional bridge between interest and desire. Without trust, attraction feels unstable. With it, attraction becomes grounded, secure, and far more powerful. Confidence is also deeply connected to authenticity. A confident presence does not perform. It does not chase approval or bend identity to fit the moment. It allows imperfections to exist without shame. It speaks honestly without cruelty. It listens without needing to dominate the conversation. There is something intensely attractive about someone who does not need to impress, because their energy already speaks for them. In intimate moments, confidence becomes even more magnetic. It shows in how someone approaches connection without hesitation, but also without pressure. There is no rush, no forcing of moments, no anxiety about outcomes. Instead, there is patience, there is presence. There is the ability to stay fully engaged in the now. This creates a slow, burning tension, the kind that lingers long after the conversation ends. Confidence also communicates safety. When someone knows who they are and what they want, it removes uncertainty from the space. The mind relaxes, the heart opens, the body responds. Desire grows most easily where there is no confusion about intentions, no emotional chaos, no unpredictable shifts in energy. Consistency is sexy, clarity is seductive. Many mistake confidence for arrogance, but they are opposites. Arrogance needs validation. Confidence does not. Arrogance seeks attention. Confidence attracts it. Arrogance tries to control the room. Confidence allows the room to settle. That calm influence is powerful. It changes the emotional temperature of every interaction. Over time, confidence becomes associated with how the experience feels. Conversations become easier. Laughter becomes deeper. Connection becomes effortless. The mind begins to associate that presence with comfort, stability, and desire all at once. That is when attraction shifts from something exciting to something essential. The most seductive form of communication is not what is said, but how it is carried. A steady tone, a relaxed pace, a grounded presence. These signals tell the nervous system that it is safe to lean in, to stay longer, to want more. This is why confidence is not just attractive, it is unforgettable. Attraction does not grow from knowing everything. It grows from wanting to know more. Mystery is the quiet space between what is revealed and what is felt. It is the pause after a sentence, the smile that lingers, the story that remains unfinished. The mind is drawn to what it cannot immediately resolve, and when the mind becomes engaged, the heart soon follows. Mystery creates movement inside the connection. It keeps curiosity alive. When everything is explained too quickly, when emotions are laid bare without rhythm or restraint, the experience becomes flat. Not because honesty is wrong, but because timing matters. Desire is built through pacing, through allowing moments to unfold instead of being rushed. Through giving the other person space to wonder, to imagine, to lean forward emotionally. There is something deeply seductive about someone who reveals themselves slowly, not in a guarded way, but in a deliberate way. Someone who understands that intimacy is not about information, but about experience. Each conversation becomes an invitation rather than a disclosure. Each interaction leaves something unsaid, not because it is hidden, but because it is waiting for the right moment to be shared. Mystery lives in presence. In the way someone listens without over-explaining themselves, in the way they respond without reacting impulsively, in the calm confidence of knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work. Silence, when carried with ease, becomes one of the most powerful forms of communication. It allows emotion to rise, it allows tension to build, it allows attraction to deepen. The most compelling connections are not those that burn fast and consume everything at once. They are the ones that unfold slowly, naturally, with rhythm, with space, with anticipation. Mystery is what turns a simple interaction into an experience the mind returns to again and again. It is what makes a message linger, a memory replay, a moment stretch beyond itself. Mystery also protects the individuality of each person within the connection. When someone maintains their own world, their own pace, their own sense of self, it prevents emotional dependence and creates emotional gravity instead. There is something intoxicating about someone who does not dissolve into the relationship, but invites another into their life while remaining fully grounded in who they are. As time passes, mystery does not mean distance, it means depth. It means discovering new layers, new perspectives, new stories that only emerge with trust and time. This kind of unfolding keeps attraction alive long after the initial spark. It transforms chemistry into connection and connection into something lasting. When mystery is present, desire does not need to be forced. It grows quietly. It builds in the background. It becomes part of how the other person thinks, feels, and remembers. The mind stays engaged. The heart stays open. The connection stays alive. And that is the power of mystery. It does not chase attention, it holds it. Intimacy does not grow in chaos, it grows in direction. When someone moves through life with clarity and purpose, the emotional space around them begins to organize itself. Conversations feel steadier, decisions feel lighter, connection feels calmer. That sense of direction is not about control over others, but about mastery of self, and that mastery is what quietly awakens intimacy. Leadership in connection is not about dominance or authority. It is about responsibility. It is about being emotionally available while remaining grounded. It is about knowing when to step forward and when to step back, when to speak and when to listen, when to guide the moment and when to simply hold the space. This balance creates trust, and trust is the doorway to deeper intimacy. When someone leads their life well, they bring that stability into every interaction. Plans are made with intention. Promises are kept. Words align with actions. This consistency relaxes the nervous system. It removes the uncertainty that often blocks emotional openness. When uncertainty fades, closeness becomes easier. Vulnerability feels safer. Desire flows more naturally. Leadership also communicates security without needing to say a word. It is felt in the way challenges are handled, the way stress is managed, the way problems are approached with calm rather than panic. This emotional steadiness becomes incredibly attractive because it tells the heart, you can lean here. And when the heart leans, intimacy deepens. In moments of tension, leadership becomes even more powerful. Instead of withdrawing or escalating, a grounded presence stays engaged. Instead of reacting, it responds. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, it creates space for them. This does not push connection away, it draws it closer, because real intimacy is built not in perfect moments, but in how imperfect moments are handled together. Over time, this way of moving through connection transforms how the relationship feels. There is less emotional friction, less guessing, less insecurity, more ease, more warmth, more depth. The mind associates that presence with stability, and the heart associates it with safety. Attraction becomes layered with respect, and respect strengthens desire. Leadership in intimacy also means honoring boundaries. It means recognizing emotional limits and protecting the connection from unnecessary strain. It means choosing growth over comfort, honesty over avoidance, presence over distraction. These choices build a connection that does not depend on intensity alone, but on intention. As intimacy deepens, the relationship becomes a place of renewal rather than exhaustion, a place where both people feel supported, seen, and grounded. This is not accidental. It is created through consistent emotional leadership, through showing up fully, through staying steady when emotions rise, through holding space when the moment requires it. This is how leadership awakens intimacy, not by force, but by foundation. Chemistry does not grow from unlimited access. It grows from structure, from space, from the quiet understanding that connection is something to be respected, not consumed. Boundaries are not walls. They are the architecture of attraction. They define where one person ends and another begins, and it is within that space that chemistry is created. When boundaries are clear, the connection feels intentional. Time together becomes meaningful. Conversations carry weight. Presence is valued. Without boundaries, everything blurs. Desire loses its shape. The emotional experience becomes overwhelming or flat. But when limits exist, anticipation is born, and anticipation is one of the strongest forces of attraction. Boundaries communicate self-respect. They say, without needing explanation, I know my worth, I honor my time, I protect my emotional energy. That message is magnetic. It changes the emotional dynamic of every interaction. It removes the sense of neediness and replaces it with confidence. And confidence, when paired with emotional warmth, creates powerful chemistry. When someone honors their boundaries, they invite the other person to do the same. This mutual respect creates balance. There is no chasing, no withdrawing, no emotional tug of war. Instead, there is rhythm. There is space to miss each other, space to reflect, space for desire to grow instead of being constantly stimulated into exhaustion. Chemistry thrives in this space. It builds in the moments between conversations, in the pause after a message, in the memory of a smile that lingers. Boundaries allow these moments to exist. They prevent the connection from becoming rushed, overwhelming, or emotionally dependent. They protect the slow unfolding that keeps attraction alive. Healthy boundaries also make intimacy safer. When emotional limits are honored, vulnerability becomes easier. There is no fear of being consumed, controlled, or misunderstood. This safety encourages deeper sharing, more honest communication, and greater emotional openness. Paradoxically, it is the very presence of boundaries that allows intimacy to expand. Over time, boundaries transform the relationship from something intense into something enduring. Passion does not fade, it stabilizes. Desire does not disappear, it matures. The connection becomes less about emotional urgency and more about emotional depth, less about reaction and more about intention. Without boundaries, chemistry burns fast and collapses. With boundaries, chemistry simmers, it builds slowly, it becomes layered with trust, respect, and emotional presence. This is the kind of attraction that lasts because it is not dependent on constant stimulation, it is supported by structure. Boundaries also create individuality within the connection. Each person remains whole-grounded and self-directed. This prevents emotional fusion and creates emotional gravity instead. There is something irresistibly attractive about someone who invites closeness without surrendering their sense of self. This is why boundaries do not weaken chemistry. They refine it. They give it form, they give it depth, they give it space to breathe. And in that space, attraction becomes something steady, powerful, and unforgettable. Attraction may begin with a spark, but it is consistency that keeps the fire alive. Interest can be created in a moment, but craving is built over time. It is formed through repetition, reliability, and the quiet reassurance that presence will not disappear when things become real. Consistency transforms curiosity into connection, connection into attachment, and attachment into something deeply rooted and enduring. When someone shows up the same way across different moments, the nervous system relaxes. There is no guessing, no emotional whiplash, no anxiety about sudden changes. The mind begins to trust the pattern, and where trust exists, emotional investment naturally follows. This investment is what deepens attraction beyond excitement and into something that feels essential. Consistency does not mean predictability in behavior, but stability in character. It means values remain intact, words continue to align with actions. Emotional tone stays grounded. Even when circumstances shift, the presence remains steady. This reliability becomes profoundly attractive because it creates a sense of emotional home, a place where the heart feels safe to rest and the mind feels free to open. Over time, this emotional stability becomes associated with comfort, warmth, and desire. The connection becomes something the body recognizes and longs for. This is where interest evolves into craving, not the urgent craving of insecurity, but the deep craving of emotional belonging, the kind that pulls someone closer not out of need, but out of choice. Consistency also strengthens emotional intimacy. When someone knows what to expect from a presence, vulnerability becomes easier. There is no fear of sudden withdrawal or emotional confusion. This safety encourages honesty, openness, and deeper sharing. Each interaction builds on the last. Each moment adds another layer to the bond. Craving grows quietly in this environment. It is not loud or chaotic, it is steady, persistent, and deeply felt. It shows up in the way the mind returns to conversations, in the comfort of shared silence, in the anticipation of connection. This craving is not based on uncertainty, but on emotional resonance. Without consistency, attraction remains fragile. It rises and falls with emotion. It depends on mood, timing, and circumstance. But with consistency, attraction becomes grounded. It stops being something that needs to be chased or maintained. It becomes something that simply exists, strong and stable. As time passes, this stability allows passion to mature. It does not disappear, it deepens. Desire becomes layered with trust, respect, and emotional connection. The relationship shifts from intensity to intimacy, from excitement to depth, and in that depth, craving becomes part of the bond itself. This is the quiet power of consistency. It does not demand attention, it earns devotion.